All right, so it's time to talk about subtracting integers. So let me start with some real world problems here. So let's assume you're out of school and you have a job and you get a paycheck. So you work for Mr. Ramos and you're going to get your paycheck. Well, you show up and you say, hey, I want my paycheck. So I give you your paycheck. Paycheck's for $100. So you started with no money and then you got $100. So now you have $100. Problem. Oh man, I gave you that check at the wrong time. So I need to take that away. I'm sorry. Can you please give me back that check? So that $100 that you thought, you got to subtract that 100 and you come back to 0. So that makes sense. Not a big deal. Sorry, I'll fix that for you later. Okay, so let's think of the other side of the real world. Bills. Ah, no, end of the month you got some bills due. So let's say you get a bill, final notice. You owe $254 for your insurance. Oh my gosh, but I have no money in my account. So if I'm going to take out 254, I'm going to be in the negative 254. Ugh, what a headache. But wait, there's hope. Ooh, I'm sorry. I own the insurance. I sent you that bill and I made a mistake there. You don't really owe me that $254. So negative 254 minus a negative 254. You owed me 254, but oh, I made a mistake. I need to subtract. I need to take off that bill, that negative. So another way you can think about this is really changing that. That's saying the opposite of negative 254. The opposite of 254 or negative 254 is positive 254. And you can see here that, oh, okay, so that bill that I owed, I'm going to really just add that. I get that money back really, and I go back to 0. So it's not that big of a deal. So if that was confusing to you, I'm going to slow it up and show you in different ways here. So don't worry about it. But the essential question is, hey, how is subtracting integers similar and different than adding? How is it different than what we learned before? Okay, so I'm going to use, I wrote down the two examples that we wrote, and you can add pictures and stuff so you know that there's paychecks or bills. But I'm going to come down to using some manipulatives. Okay. All right, so let's take a look here. All right, negative 4. That means I have 4 negatives, right? 1, 2, 3, and 4. Okay, so I've got 4 negatives to start with. And then on top of the negative 4, I also have another negative 3. So this is where that little song that you might have learned comes into play. Same signs, add and keep. Yes, they all have the same signs, so I have a total of 7 negatives. Okay, so that's no big deal. Pretty simple, especially with the song. Oh man, Mr. Rollins, you're going to make me sing that song again? Yeah, do it. I won't, but anyway, there's that. All right, I'm going to move down to the next example. All right, so I come down over here. This one's asking me for positive 2. There's 2 positives. And then it says minus a negative. This whole idea of minus a negative, it's really asking for, hey, you know what? I want the opposite of negative 3. Because look, I look at this. What's the opposite of 3? Negative 3. Well, duh. But what's the opposite of that? Ah, positive 3. So I can almost rewrite this question as to say 2 negatives. Well, that's going to make it a positive 3. And then that makes it a much simpler problem. I've got 2 positives and another 3 positives. Same signs, add and keep. All right, we get the idea. And you get positive 5. All right, let's try one more here using manipulatives and see if that helps you out. All right, so I've got this other last problem here. I've got 3 negatives. Let me borrow these. Whoop. Okay, and then I'm going to subtract a negative 5. I'm going to take away 5 negatives. If I take away 5 negatives, that's really like increasing it, right? So I still have the negative 3, but by taking away negatives, the opposite of a negative 5 is now positive 5. Okay. So that's much easier to think of, and I'll put those there. All right, so same signs, add and keep. Nope. Different signs, subtract. Yep. 5 minus 3. Well, that's 2. Take the sign of the higher absolute value. This one has more positives, 5 positives, so it's the bigger number. Then you'll be exact. So therefore, your answer is positive 2. Okay? We're going to try a different way of explaining this next. But before we go on, let's go ahead and add to our notes here. Let's just show, if you don't have manipulatives, you can just use little symbols here. That's 4 negatives. and 3 more negatives gives you your 7 total, right? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Over here, positive 2, that's 2 positives. Opposite of negative 3, that's 3 more positives, and that gives you the 5 that you had there. And the last one here, 3 negatives minus a negative 5, that's positive 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So that leaves you with the positive 2. All right, let's expand on this idea. Let's try to use a different method of explaining it to you. We're going to use number lines, okay? So number lines. I'm going to start with negative 2. Negative 2 minus 5. Okay, so that means I started at negative 2. Well, I don't know, let's say it's right here. That would be negative 3, negative 4, negative 5, and so on and so forth, right? And over here, the number line goes there. So if I start at negative 2, that means I start right here, okay, negative 2, and then negative, so it means, hey, go to the left. So we're going subtracting, we're moving to the left. We're going to do 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5 if I move there. So I started at negative 2 and I went 5, I end up at negative 7. Okay, let's go to another one. So let's see how this works here. Well, let's start with negative 7. Let's say negative 7 is here. Negative 8, negative 9. Okay, so we get the idea. Now, what I'm going to do now is I'm going to start at negative 7, right? That's where it starts off at. Now it says, hey, go this way. Go the opposite direction of positive, which would be negative. Go to this direction. But wait, I want you to flip around again. So it's like, go this way. No, switch it. The opposite of negative 3 is now, remember I said you could switch this to positive 3. So instead of going to the left, I'm actually going to go to the right. 3. 1, 2, 3. Right? End up with my answer of negative 4. That's kind of tricky. Let's try that one more time. I think what's helpful is when I see this thing, I go ahead and switch the signs right away. I say negative 2. The opposite of negative 4 is positive 4. This is much easier for me to think this way. If I start at negative 2, negative 1, 0, 1, 2, 3, and 4. Okay. If I start at negative 2, then it says positive 4. Go in the positive direction 4 spots. 1, 2, 3, and 4. And I end up with my answer of 2.